So I'm a board certified psychiatrist, and it's my mission to help psych NPs learn and master psychiatry. And so in this video, I'm going to be sharing how you can help your patients to get better sleep. I first learned this concept that psychiatric patients don't really sleep well in my third year of residency when I had my own patient panel and we were seeing these patients outpatient for an entire year. And so I started asking them a lot about their sleep health. And I realized that pretty much every patient that I was seeing was sleeping 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. Not one patient told me that, hey, I feel really well rested and I'm still having psychiatric issues. Like, that's not something I heard. And so that got me thinking that, if I want my patients to get better, one of the easiest, cheapest, and quickest ways to do that is to help them get better sleep. And so I started going really deep into sleep hygiene and learning about it and the things that they can do, like actions that they can take that I can teach them so that they can get better sleep. And so I'm going to walk with you 14 different steps to help your patient get better sleep. So number one, so tips, steps. So number one to start with, it actually starts with the good sleep, starts with the night before. And it's having a set bedtime. So everyone knows about alarm clocks and having a set wake up time because you have to go to work, but no one ever talks about having a set bedtime. So for me, I know that, okay, I have to work or I need 8 to 9 hours of sleep. And so back when I was working at a private practice, I would fall asleep at 12 at midnight and then I would wake up at 9 a.m. So that way I could get to work at 10:30. That was my sleeping schedule. And I knew that, okay, midnight's here. Okay, I need to kind of pretty much wrap everything up and then go to bed. Like that was my set bedtime was at midnight and then wake up at 9 a.m. And obviously things can't be perfect every day, but the fact that I just had that bedtime helped me get so natural, so rhythmized in it. Okay, I'm going to sleep around this time and then wake up around this time. And then where this became really helpful was it led into number two was not having an alarm clock. So you know what it feels like when you wake up with an alarm clock, you get jerked awake, you're still groggy, you still feel that brain fog, like that thing that's weighing you down. Whereas you know that when you wake up on weekends, you wake up feeling nice and refreshed and you might sleep in. It feels a lot more natural to wake up that way. And so now that I work for myself, I haven't used an alarm clock for months and months now. The last time I used one was a couple months ago for an early flight, but that was it. Other than that, I don't use one. And my sleep is much, much better because I have a set bedtime. I know when I'm going to go to bed and I don't wake up without an alarm clock. So what ends up happening is that I get consistently about 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night because this is something that I prioritize for and I book into my schedule. Obviously, every night is not perfect, but even if you're able to get your patients just to do these things alone, they were going to notice huge, huge gains in their sleep. And, patients might say, hey, I have work or I can't get up or I'll sleep through my alarm, things like that. Well, that's usually a sign that they're not setting a proper bedtime and they're not allocating the proper budget for them to have a sleep. So I'll even write here, set bedtime and budget for sleep. Budget/plan, either or, plan/budget for sleep, and then wake up without an alarm clock. If the patient insists they need some kind of alarm waking up thing, then there's an app I recommend. It's called Sleep Cycle. So what this app does is basically it analyzes your sleep patterns and it's able to figure out, okay, when you're in deep sleep and when you're in more shallower sleep, like stage one sleep. And so the whole goal is that when you wake up, like certainly jerked from an alarm clock, the reason you feel so groggy is because you've woken up from the deeper stages of sleep. Whereas if you wake up from a more shallow stage of sleep, then the waking is not as abrupt. And so you're able to kind of get it going on with your day without feeling as miserable. So the Sleep Cycle app basically analyzes your 90-minute cycles to help you wake up in the shallowest phase. So it'll, instead of waking up at, let's say, 7:30, you might wake up like 7:20, 7:40-ish, depending on what your schedule is like. So it gives people more flexibility. Yeah. Okay, so then now number three. So number three tip that I want to cover is to decrease caffeine. And I know like America and the whole world is going to kind of get on my arms about this, but caffeine affects sleep. It's got a half-life of 10, 12 hours, which means that even 10, 12 hours later, 50% of the caffeine is still in the person's system. And caffeine blunts the sleep signal. It blunts adenosine. So people, I mean, get really attached to caffeine. They'll say things like, oh, I can sleep even after drinking caffeine. Well, yeah, that's usually because A, your tolerance is high, and B, your sleep drive is, you're just so sleep deprived that you can fall asleep on it regardless. Like it overcomes the caffeine. But caffeine, I think of it's like a loan that you take your future self. You take a loan against your future self. So you might get some energy now, but you pay for it down the line. And I just don't think the trade-off is worth it. And if you're trying to help your patient get optimal sleep, I would really suggest for them to cut down caffeine or at least lower their consumption of it, or take as early as possible. So no afternoon caffeine. So yeah, so that's the caffeine thing. Number 4 is exercise. So with exercise, basically, as you tire out your body, it's a lot easier to fall asleep, basically. And so if you get exercise during the day done, and it doesn't have to be complex exercise, even something like walking. Walking is one of my favorite exercises now. And I've found that for myself, even when I walk, I'm able to just fall asleep easier. And certainly if I've weightlifted. So if you can encourage your patient to get more exercise in the day, that will really help. Number 5, and some of these people talk about, but some I've never heard people talk about. This one is eat dinner early. Now, why do I say this? It's because when you eat dinner, 2 things happen. One is that now your body is focused on digesting all of that food. And 2, when it's focusing on digesting all that food, it releases energy and it warms you up. So these are antithesis to getting good sleep, because with sleep, your body needs to be less metabolically active, and then it needs to be cooler, which we'll get into. Eating a late dinner goes against both those things. So when you have a late dinner, your it's heating up because it's focused on breaking down all that food. So it's not really focusing on winding down all your metabolic functions to sleep. It's still very active when it's digesting. And then second is that now your body feels very warm, and warmth is not going to help the patient fall asleep. So encourage them to eat dinner early. I have found for myself that sometimes I'll do like a 1 meal a day, and when I do that, I usually eat around the afternoons, and those days my sleep is really good. So we talked about number 5. So number 6 is to decrease nicotine. So especially 4 hours before bedtime. So obviously 0 nicotine would be ideal for the sleeping situation, but not everyone's going to do that. So at least if they can decrease it at least 4 hours before bedtime, then that will help them fall asleep. Nicotine is a stimulant. Stimulants help keep people awake. Therefore, if you limit the nicotine, nicotine's got a duration of 2 hours lasting, it's got a half-life of 2 hours. It lasts about 4 hours. So if they can decrease that, that's going to help them fall asleep. And then similarly, no alcohol for sleep. Obviously, people go out and socialize and things, but a lot of patients use alcohol to help them with sleeping. They say, oh yeah, it helped put me to sleep. Yes, but it doesn't help them stay asleep. And so patients will often tell me that, yeah, like I'll get to sleep, but then I'll wake up throughout the night, or I have to get up and pee, or I'll get up and I can't fall asleep again. And alcohol does all those things. It disrupts the sleep cycle. So that's why, if they can limit it, not use it to help them fall asleep, that is a huge thing. And now we're going to get into the nighttime routine. So I think a routine is very helpful. So I'm going to write routine night, because it's like Pavlovian conditioning. Basically, when you start doing this routine, you understand that, okay, now it's time to help my body go to sleep. So really encourage your patient to have a nighttime routine. And here are the things that I recommend telling patients to do. So number 8 is going to be decreasing screens or having a blue light filter. So when you decrease the screens, basically there's this thing called blue light that phones and computers and things have, and that suppresses melatonin production. Melatonin helps us fall asleep. So if melatonin is suppressed, then you're not going to be able to fall asleep easier. Now, decrease screens an hour before. So I'll write this, all of these stuff should be an hour before. Now, people will scroll TikTok to the moment they go to sleep. Like, not everyone's going to be able to make that change. So at the very least, have a blue light filter. Like, I recommend at least having a blue light filter. But if they can't, or if they, are willing and open to decreasing more screen use, then they're going to notice a lot better gains when they do that. So decreasing screens. So 9 is showering, and specifically a warm shower. So now you might be like, hold on, if the goal is to get cool, why would we recommend warm showers for our patients? Well, the reason is because when someone takes a warm shower, they feel warm and there's warm water on their skin, but then the water evaporates. And then when that water evaporates, evaporation requires energy, and it takes that energy from our skin. So it takes the heat from our skin, and thus evaporation actually cools us down. That's why we sweat when we're hot, because the sweating cools, the evaporation of the sweat cools us down. That's the whole point of it. So similarly with the shower. So there's that. Then 10 is making sure that they have a cool room. Having a cool room is very important because we want our bodies to be in a cooler state. Having a cool room helps with that. Now, you don't want it obviously be frozen, but you don't want it to be warm either. For me, I found the optimal temperature is like 68 to 70 degrees, around there. And so your patient might have to experiment what's ideal for them, but I would really recommend them to check that and make sure that their room is cool. So I've helped so many patients do that, help their sleep by having a cool room. And then now I just thought of another point. So with the screens, get rid of any bedroom TVs. So one of the worst things, I remember I had this patient who literally, she said she couldn't sleep ever, but she would be sitting there in the bed, just laying there watching TV. And that's a no-go, because the bed should only be associated with sleep and intimate activity. Any other activities that you do on the bed, your mind starts to associate with that. And so you push off sleep. So number 10, I wrote cool room. So number 11 is figure out your clothes and blanket situation. So what does this mean? Everyone's got their optimal amount of clothes that they like, and the blanket and how they like to be covered in their sleeping. For example, for me, I like to sleep without any clothes except socks, because my feet get too cold in the night. But I like to have blankets on, and that way I feel like I'm cocooned. And then plus with the cool room, that really helps me to fall asleep. And that's what I've noticed for myself. But other people might be very different too. So they need to find out and optimize, okay, what exactly is that situation for them. And then number 12, what I'm going to write is their pillow situation. And what do I mean by this? So everyone's got different pillows, and this might be so specific, but for me, for example, I find that I like 2 pillows, 2 small pillows, and that way my head's kind of elevated. That helps me fall asleep. Other people like to maybe fall asleep on one pillow. They might want to fall asleep on their side pillow. So really just being a little bit conscious of it, I think can really help. Number 13 is having a good book or relaxing activity, whether it's knitting or, I don't know, other things that people do that's relaxing without screens. So a book can be really helpful. And now I started reading. Right now, I'm rereading the Harry Potter series. But with a book, now you're not using a screen. You're using a book, something that just kind of helps you wind down. And like I know that reading book is part of my integrated routine. So that by the time I pick up that book, my body knows that, okay, we're going to be going to sleep pretty soon. And then number 14, and this is especially for the patients who have a lot of anxiety, is journaling. So with journaling, the reason that I like this so much is because a lot of us, we really think about a lot of our day's struggles and like errors that we made and things that people said or anxieties that we have at nighttime. And that's where our mind becomes active and swirling. So now if we journal, we're able to get all of those thoughts onto paper rather than being stuck in our minds. And so when you do that, it makes it a lot more real, a lot more tangible, but a lot more digestible. It's not like it's just a swirling mess in our heads, but rather it's something that can be looked at, can be addressed. And you kind of realize, okay, it's not as bad when you write it out on paper. And it helps you process it too. So a lot of patients, because they struggle with that, I really recommend journaling for them. And I've done this as well too. So this is a really good tip for offering to psych patients. And then number 15, bonus. So all right, because I just thought of this. So bonus. So one is mouth tape. Now you might be wondering, okay, why does mouth tape help? Well, I started using mouth tape a couple years ago and I never went back. I found that I would wake up, my throat would be hurting, my nose would be clogged, and I just wouldn't feel as good. And I started using mouth tape where now like I'd only breathe through my nose. And I found, and I used to track my sleep through an Apple Watch, and I noticed that my sleep quality was getting better. And my nose didn't feel nearly as stuffed, especially when I woke up in the morning. And I found that I felt much more relaxed too when I was having the mouth tape. And I started doing research into it, and I realized that, oh yeah, nasal breathing is healthier for us because our nasal passages filter out the air that comes into our body when we use mouth tape. And yeah, so I once I started using it, I haven't gone back. So I recommend it to all my patients. And then a bonus 2, all right, so let's say it's bonus 1. And then here's another bonus, is that you can use supplements as well too. So like magnesium and L-theanine, magnesium. So here, I'll write it here, SUPS. So magnesium, L-theanine, all of these are really good supplements that you can use to help sleep. But that shouldn't be the core thing. The core thing should be everything else. And then that leads to good sleep. But yeah, I wanted to share this so that way you can use these tips to teach your patients and to help them get the best sleep that they need.